time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Wayne Spooney here with a man I'm often joined by, Jake Eisenberg. Jake, how you doing, buddy?
We're good. It should be my stress-free part of the basketball calendar, yet the Boomers lost it was like a Celtics loss. Like they kind of just turnovers, crunch time, just a bit of a disaster down the stretch. And our good friend Daniel Tyson, Dennis Schroeder, doing the damage as well, which didn't help. But we're good, man.
Yeah, we should be good at taking those types of losses, but we're also joined by a special guest. He's an NBA YouTube legend, also a fantastic Twitter follow. So that is AlexHoops. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you guys for asking to have me on. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. So what we're going to do today is a little different than like completely Celtics-centered show like we usually do. I think Jake and I will be unable to help ourselves than to talk about this stuff through a Celtics lens. And I did take am I afraid of these teams as a Celtics fan into account when I tiered them, but we're going to tier the Eastern Conference holistically, regular season and playoff. And how we're going to do it is I'm just going to throw the teams out where I have them, and then these two are going to tell me why I'm very stupid or that I'm right for once. So, gentlemen, I think we should just kick it off and jump right in. Sound good?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did not rank these teams within the tiers, but if I were to, this would be my number 15 team, the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And this is tier 5, the number 1 pick crew. That is the Washington Wizards. I mean, Alex, the Wizards are going to be terrible, right? They're the worst team in the Eastern Conference.
I think it's between. The thing is, there's so many teams that are in the in-between zone in the East, like the Raptors. We don't really know what they're gonna do, and the Hornets, is LaMelo Ball healthy? The Pistons, is Cade healthy? And how much better do they reasonably get? But the Wizards are the only one where I'm they're gonna be bad. They're gonna be bad. So, I'd say I'm with you there.
To prepare for this, there's so much movement in the offseason, so I went through and just looked up everyone's roster, wrote down who I projected as starters, who's coming off the bench. And it does speak to kind of how much talent there is when I was at this bottom tier, and I'm Tyus Jones, Jordan Poole, Denny, Kuzma, Gafford. That's at least five NBA players, and then we got the big dog Xavier Cooks coming off the bench. He's the wild card surely to tip these guys into the next tier. But they're Koulibaly, rookie, Johnny Davis, Gallo, revenge season. But you're as a
Gallo revenge season. Yeah, we'll see. 36, 37 off that big injury. I don't know about that, but
to me, it's kind of less of a testament to how bad the Wizards are going to be and more so how good the East is. Just about every team in the East kind of plans on getting better next year. The teams that were in the lottery last year, all of them are we kind of need to make the play-in this year. And the Wizards are we can kind of do whatever we want. So
they're free. They're free from the shackles of the Bradley Beal contracted world.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. We won't spend too much time on the Wizards. I'm pretty sure Wizards podcasts aren't even spending a lot of time on them. So next I have the Detroit Pistons, and they were 28th in offense last year, 27th in defense, 28th in net rating. I expect them to be better than that this year, but I don't really know if they can jump into that play-in area next season. They're really young. They do have some veteran guys like Joe Harris and Bojan, but I think I'm pretty comfortable with Pistons in my tier 5. Jake?
This is the one team at the bottom, and maybe it's my Celtics bias because they always play us tough. They've given us trouble the last couple of years. I mean, Cade only played 10 games last year, so I think you really have to take that into consideration. We don't really know if he was kind of able to come back or not because it didn't really make sense to bring him back. I really liked him coming out. I really liked his rookie season. I think if he's healthy, I think that they can jump into the next tier. Yeah, they're super young. But Ivy year 2, But then, they were really missing shooting, it felt like last year. And like Joe Harris can't hit a shot once he gets to the playoffs, but he has not been below 40% for pretty much his entire career. And that's kind of what the Pistons need. So like actually surrounding Cade with some shooters. I don't know why they have like 9 big men between Wiseman and Bagley. And
I know.
Like Beef Stew coming off the bench. That's like they got to like low key some depth. And Monte Morris coming off the bench too. I don't hate the depth, but this is a Cade bet for me. I would put them up a tier because I'm like a Cade believer, at least for next year. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing with them is like outside of just Cade, they have a lot of like what if guys. Like what if Jaden Ivey takes a second-year leap, which I'm kind of the belief that second-year leaps are kind of uncommon. That doesn't happen a lot. Jalen Duren, I think he's going to be incredible, but he's still very, very young. I'm pretty sure he was the youngest player in the NBA last season. Mm-hmm. He's going to still be one of the youngest players in the NBA this season. So it's like, how much better does he get? Do they figure out some of the rotational issues that they had last year? Like figuring out, do you try to make Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren work together? Is that something that's never going to work? And they're under an entirely new coach. But I do think, getting Monty Williams, while I do think there's a bit of a cap that you have with Monty Williams as your head coach, he is still a good head coach that I think raises the overall floor of that roster. And where I get hung up with them in terms of like ranking them in terms of a tier, there's just a lot of good teams in the East. So how much better do they get? Am I going to bet on them like being a play-in team? Probably not. But if I had to bet on them being anywhere, it would be in that upper end of the lottery range.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake. Go.
I was going to say, it depends. How much stock do you put in that Team USA scrimmage? Cade and Duren just going to work. Like, I think Duren was legitimately awesome last year. And I think if all it is Cade and Duren having that chemistry, like just on a night-to-night basis, could have a solid floor. But yeah, you're probably right. But I don't know. I'm going over on the Pistons this year.
All right, Jake's got him in tier 4. I love it, man. I love their talent. I'm with you, Jake. I'm a huge Cade guy. He was awesome at Oklahoma State as well. Destroyed the Mountaineers, unfortunately. I also was a big Ivy fan coming out of the draft. So we'll see what Osor Thompson can give them. As a rookie, that's always tough to predict. Like he seems like a guy who might need a year to really be like a positive contributor. Although, big wings. As long as he can stay in front of his man, that's going to give you a little help. But I'm keeping him. I think they're tier 5 for me. Next year, I think is when we could really see them jump up into like legitimate playoff contenders and out like higher than the play-in even. Maybe that's crazy, but
yeah, they could be like OKC East a little bit. Like can Cade make like an SGA leap in like a year or two kind of thing?
Yeah. Alrighty. The last team in my tier 5, the infamous tier 5, is the Charlotte Hornets, who, strangely, 30th offense last year, 20th defense, 27th net rating. I know LaMelo was in and out of the lineup. He didn't play a ton. They were just a complete mess. Maybe the lone bright spot was Mark Williams, who I think is like solely responsible for that 20th defense. So I don't know, man. And what's his name? Bridges is coming back, and that's just such a bizarre situation. Like, I can't believe they're doing that. Did they re-sign PJ already?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got him on a great deal.
Yeah, so
PJ's back.
He's getting $3 million more than our good friend Grant Williams. But man, PJ for a 16, he's good. When you look at how much money was thrown around this offseason, like that's probably the best roster move that the Charlotte Hornets have made in a while. Outside of just like drafting a good player in the top 3, which
hopefully you don't mess that up.
Yeah.
It happens often. So, but Alex, are you with me tier 5, or would you bump them into sort of the playoff contenders? Or the play-in contenders, rather.
Yeah, I'm maybe a little inclined to put them in the play-in contenders simply because I think what we saw LaMelo Ball do in, I believe it was 2021, the last season he had healthy, he kind of dragged that team to the play-in.
They were in the play-in, yeah.
Yeah, and
they won 43 games or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you look at the 8, 9, and 10 seed in the East this past season, they all won 41 games. So like the bar to be a play-in team isn't terribly inaccessible for them, but there's so much noise with like Miles Bridges coming back, LaMelo like maybe not being like an injury risk. Gordon Hayward's basically out there playing in a wheelchair. Terry Rozier he's shooting toward eights. It's like I don't really I don't feel comfortable putting them as a play-in lock, especially with a team like the Magic and the Pacers. The Pacers I think will comfortably be at least a play-in team, and then the Magic, they're gonna be fighting to make the play-in, and all they need is, relative to last season's Eastern Conference, like the Magic just need to win 6 more games than they won last year to be a play-in team. So
yeah, the Hornets, like, going into this, I was like, yeah, lock for the number 1 pick crew. But then you start looking at it, it's like LaMelo was really, really good. I'm not like the biggest fan of him, maybe like super high ceiling long term. He's like a long Trae Young vibe to me a little bit. But then it's like, okay, well, as disgusting as the Miles Bridges situation is, he's like a really good NBA wing. And then it's like Hayward will give you 43 games-ish. But who knows? This is the last year of his contract. He'll probably play well and then get one more big contract and then be injured for the next team that he plays for as well, like he has for Charlotte and Boston, unfortunately. But like he's really good. And then like I was wondering, maybe Terry Rozier has the potential to kind of like really make some chemistry issues, because like
never
like,
Terry. No.
Well, because I was like, who starts? Because is Terry going to start, or do you start Brandon Miller? Because he was the number 2 pick, and Terry Rozier's on like at least it's either the last year of his contract or one more year, and obviously he's probably not long for the Hornets. So do you start Terry and LaMelo in the backcourt, or do you start Brandon Miller in the backcourt and then Miles, Hayward, and then Mark Williams? That seems like that makes sense to me. Is Terry going to like coming off the bench? No. Does that cause like did the Hornets have the infrastructure to handle an angry Terry Rozier? Because the Celtics did not. The underrated, the Kyrie, Robin to his bad vibes Batman that year.
Yeah, they get like a lot of bad teams where they're really light is on the wing. Like you look at Detroit, like we're trying to talk ourselves into Joe Harris, but like PJ,
yeah.
Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, Hayward, Cody Martin, like he's a fine, okay. JT Thor, I actually kind of liked in limited minutes last year too. So they've got some wings. Like if everybody stays, the health is really what's undermined this team. So if they stay healthy, I could see them sneaking into the play-in. All right, let's move on before we were joking, if we spend 15 minutes on tier 5, we're going to be in trouble time-wise. So we'll keep it moving here. But Alex, you brought up actually the next team that I almost put in my tier 3, which is middle class, but they are the start of tier 4 play-in fodder. That is the Orlando Magic. 26 in offense, which I anticipate will come up, 18th in defense, 24th in net rating. I mean, I don't think I have to sell you on the Magic. Like, they're just absolutely loaded with young talent. And at some point, it's all going to click, and they're going to be a very good basketball team. But is that next year? Not sure.
Yeah, I think you said at some point it's going to all click. Some could say there's an argument that you could make that it clicked post All-Star break last year.
Yeah.
Because I think they were 500 post All-Star break or something like that.
That's right.
So it's like there's a chance if that continues, they're already kind of in that play-in conversation if that is anything to go off of. Obviously, it's a much smaller sample size, so we'll see what actually ends up happening. Markelle Fultz looked pretty dang good when he came back. Like, obviously, he's still not going to be a particularly spectacular three-point shooter. I think he shot 31% in the games that he played, but like really efficient mid-range scorer, very efficient at the rim, very good at getting to the rim, and overall he does a lot for their offense just in terms of greasing the wheels and facilitating everything. Obviously, Paolo's the big guy for them that they're all like, this is the franchise guy going forward, but the guy that I'm watching the most heading into next season, and I think he was obviously Paolo's the big name. I think Franz Wagner was the best player on the Magic last year. He was incredible and did not get nearly as much attention, respect, whatever you want to call it, as he deserved. And assuming Paolo makes even, somewhat marginal improvements heading into next year, that team is already going to be really good just off the backs of those two alone. And you look at a guy like Wendell Carter Jr., who has been consistently very good throughout his pretty much entire career, and all the guys that they have to work with to just try out and see what they have. And then you've got Anthony Black and Jet Howard as well, who Jet Howard looked really, really good in Summer League. Anthony Black's going to be more of like a connector out of the gate, and that might honestly be kind of what he ends up being long term, like almost somewhat like a Derek White type, where it's like, you're just kind of filling the whole, hey, we can talk about Derek
White. That's hallowed ground.
What is that? What is that? An MVP candidate? 6 pick?
Hey, I'm all in on the Derek White All-Star 2024 campaign.
Yeah, let's
go. I really like the Magic in this spot. I think if I were to like pick a team that I was comfortable with, like putting money on to make the play-in tournament, I'm picking them. I think they're just going to take such a big leap from last year.
Yeah. Again, if you're someone that only watches Celtics games, which I know a lot of our audience is probably like 99% of what they do is watch Celtics games, they're probably surprised that they're not in the tier 1 contender category, because the Celtics cannot beat the Orlando Magic, even prior to the Franz and Paolo era, the Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross era.
Vucevic,
Vucevic, dude. We've been battling with Orlando for, honestly, back to the Dwight Howard days. It's
been a
tough.
decade. It's been easily a decade, yeah.
But in particular, last season they gave the Celtics a lot of trouble. I think that's partly matchup wise, and partly the Celtics love to just underrate their opponents, and I'm praying that maybe this is the year that they don't do that. But this team, man, Franz is the real deal. Like, he's a legit like 6'9", 6'10", just like 3-level scorer, can like run the show. Yeah, Paolo got the headlines. He's the Team USA guy. But no, it's all about Franz for me. But Paolo was really good too. Looking like kind of like a rookie-ish Jason Tatum out there with the way that he was kind of operating. He's just so polished for a guy that's that young, and he's just so big. I love that he's getting reps with the Team USA. He's like a small ball 5, just being in that environment. The Team USA bump, I'm not sure I put as much stock into it as Bill Simmons does, but these guys always, like, you can't argue against it being a good thing to be around like these really great coaches, Spo, Kerr, all these great players. Like, plus just being 19 last year, like, he will be better next season. These guys are going to be good from a playoff perspective. I think they would struggle. I think that there's some shooting questions on this roster, like up and down. But from a regular season perspective, Joe Ingles getting in there, giving them some, like, for the Bucks. Joe Ingles can't guard Jason Tatum, but he can run secondary pick and rolls and space the floor and be 6'8" for the Magic and be a great veteran guy. So I like the Magic next year for sure. Middle class?
I've thought about it, dude. I thought long and hard. Alex, real quick before we move on, do you think they get anything out of Jonathan Isaac? Because, like, last time we saw him 3 years ago, he looked like he was going to be a defensive monster, and now it's like, who knows?
Yeah, I'm like, whatever happens with him. I'm not gonna guess one way or another, just because there's just too many question marks. Is he gonna be selling
Amway?
Yeah.
Yeah, over under on games played versus
Daily
books
Wire.
Released.
Yeah.
It's like,
Vaccine conspiracies. Yeah, I'll take the over on the conspiracies. But all right, next, moving on. This one I struggled with. I almost think you could make an argument they could be in tier 5, but I'm just a huge Mikal Bridges guy, is the Brooklyn Nets in the play-in fodder. 12th in offense, 16th in defense. None of that matters. This team is just so completely different from the one that played most of the season. And as Jake has helped me here by putting in our run sheet, they were 12-14 post trade deadline. So that I think that's probably about going to be their winning percentage in my opinion. But Jake, do you think tier 4 probably about right for Brooklyn?
I think so. I considered moving them down too, but I do think that they just have too many just good NBA players.
Yeah.
Like Cam Johnson, McHale, DFS. I really like Claxton. I just can't watch Dinwiddie, but like they just don't have any real good creation. Like that would be the one thing. But from a regular season point of view, I think that's not a huge deal. They can kind of share the load. It's more when they got to the playoffs and they just like could not manufacture a single clean look against Philly, which shouldn't be that difficult with those perimeter defenders out there. Ben Simmons is the wild card. I guess technically it's a wild card. Like, but I don't think it's really that wild of a card. It's just like a 3 of diamonds. It's just like I kind of know what I'm getting out of this thing at this point. I'm probably a little too harsh on him at this point, but the fact that, again, he just didn't turn up to the Boomers camp, even to just like be part of like the culture and stuff. Like he just doesn't want to, in my opinion, be around basketball.
No.
Like he wouldn't have even needed to have played really for the Boomers just to be around a good environment. And he just keeps opting out of that every time when it's a no-brainer for players. But that's a whole nother podcast channel, the Ben Simmons Australian Boomers thing.
Yeah, the Nets are tough because you're betting on Mikal Bridges being like that guy, and as much as I like Mikal Bridges, I do still have some questions about like his height as, you know, a main guy. A lot of people after that, you know, small 10-game sample size after being traded, they were kind of ready to call him, you know, he's going to be a 25-plus point per game scorer, the number one option on a future contender. And it's like, he's good. There's still some things that he is not going to be able to do for you. I know they tried him as like the point guard a lot during that short stretch of games. And the results were occasionally cool, but like not consistent enough yet to where like I'm going to be buying any stock in that. But they actually made some off-season moves that I really, really liked. They brought in Dennis Smith Jr., I believe, Dennis Smith Jr.,
he was good.
The advanced numbers, like I'm not super, super big on advanced stats anymore, but like I watched some of the film and stuff with Dennis Smith Jr. and like tried to see how much noise there was with the advanced numbers about his defense. And I was like, kind of right. He's really, really, really good. Obviously the offense, who the heck knows, but adding a guy like Dennis Smith Jr. is fantastic for a young team like them. He's still only 25 years old. They brought in Lonnie Walker, who, you know, he had a pretty good stint with the Lakers.
He had one huge fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They got him paid.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, they got good stuff to work with, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, at least through, you know, the means of a 6 seed. They could make the playoffs through the play-in, but obviously we've seen anything can happen in the play-in. So yeah, I think the range that they're in right now, I wouldn't go too low. If they were to miss the play-in, they would miss the play-in because they were the 11th seed. But I really struggle to see a world where they're worse than that.
Yeah. I think that's a good call. Like you run a defensive lineup of Dennis Smith Jr., Johnson, McHale, DFS, and Claxton. Like you're going to be in games,
dude.
Yeah,
that's monster D.
Yeah, you're going to be in games. Yeah, dude. This is not the podcast for Monster D. Let me tell you. Anyway, yeah, they're probably right around that like 500 mark would be my guess. Like the 12-14 post deadline's probably going to flutter around there most of the season, I would guess. But some people in the chat think Brooklyn's a sleeper. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, got 10 seed written all over them in my opinion. But all right, next for the play-in fodder, this is our biggest tier here, a whole 4 teams, is a team I think is really difficult to predict, but that's the Chicago Bulls, 24th in offense last year, 5th in defense, 13th in net rating. I I think Chicago has like one trump card, and that's if Pat Williams just like figures it out offensively and breaks out. I think that can really like completely change the ceiling of this team. But I don't know, Alex, do you disagree? I think until we see it, they're tier 4 playing fodder to me.
Yeah, it's with Patrick Williams. I'm someone who's still pretty high on him. Maybe not this year, but I still think there's so much more to his game that we haven't seen yet. Like if you look at last year, numbers wise, it wasn't his best year in some regards. Like the mid-range thing, which is something that a lot of people are expecting of him eventually. They think he's like kind of a potentially a diet Kawhi kind of guy. But like 38% from mid-range last year, shot really, really well from 3, 41%.
Yeah.
But even at the rim for his size, 61% at the rim, there's still some issues with him kind of being that next level contributor that people speculate he's capable of being. And I just don't really know what they have that's going to be different. Like what's going to change enough to move the needle for them. Post trade deadline, they were a much better team. But even still, like in this Eastern Conference, you've got to do more for a longer period of time than just have a good run after the trade deadline or after the All-Star break for you to really cement yourself in that playoff tier. And I think play-in is comfortable.
Yeah, they're destined to be in the play-in tier, and it's so much of it has to do with the Lonzo injury, which is such a bummer. Like seeing him have to like clap back to Stephen A. Smith, showing that he's like able to stand up and sit down, and like that's the bar that we're at right now. Like it's cool, like happy for him that he can sit down without being in pain, but like the fact that he even has to do that is really upsetting. And he's similar to Derek White for me in the sense of just like he's one piece, but he just like makes everything fit really well. He adds like he was such a good shooter. He had really fixed his shot by the time he went down. That connecting piece, the like adding like him and Caruso in as like this defensive pairing. Like he just plugged so many different holes for them. He could fill so many different roles, similar to Derek. And like if you need him to do anything on any given night or quarter, he kind of can. And without that takes them down from, I think being like a kind of a scary playoff opponent to like probably missing the playoffs, which is a bummer. But it's kind of the reality.
Yeah, and they picked up Javon Carter, who I love, but if one team doesn't need Javon Carter, it's this one. They have Caruso, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu. They're going to play like 4 guards. I don't know. That didn't make a ton of sense to me. So yeah, I'm with you guys. Just like it feels like something's just not right with the Bulls, and maybe they should take it in a complete other direction. But yeah, it's all because of Ball, man. If he was around, I got easily have them in the middle tier there, but in the third tier. But
yeah, send us Caruso. I agree, yes. Razin Khan.
Oh my gosh,
I agree. You send out one Marcus Smart, you bring in another.
Oh my gosh.
Him and Derek White terrorizing people. That'd be fun.
That's unreal.
All right, my last team. Oh, yes, we can, and we shall, because it's the off season and we're looking for content. But tier 4, last team. This is a team I'm actually really high on, but I think maybe it might be a year too soon. That's the Indiana Pacers, 21st in offense. I think they'll be a top 10 offense next year. 26 in defense, 25th in net rating. Hallie, they were a completely different team when Tyrese Halliburton played. They were a very good team, borderline, like flirting with the higher play-in seeds with him, and completely terrible without him. Obviously, Aaron Nesmith, probably superstar leap
legend.
Next year in the cards.
First team
Celtics
All-NBA.
legend, yeah. But I ultimately, I think, Hallie's probably not going to play 82 games. And yeah, they've got some limitations defensively. So I just stuck them in tier 4, Jake. You agree?
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to push them up of tier. But when you really, really think about it, I don't think that they're going to be like a surefire 4 to 6 seed. I think it's more likely they're going to be battling. That battle for the 6th seed is going to be just immense. And again, also just side note, how good is that battle for the 6th seed? Just like never existed before, and now it's like a whole different part of like your daily watching of the NBA experience is like trying to hang on to that spot. And I think like the Pacers and we'll get to some other teams that will be kind of fighting for that spot. Halliburton, again, another team where Celtics fans are highly aware of how much trouble he gives us and the Pacers give us. It's because they don't fuck around. They just they come out and they're playing on a 10 from the tip.
Yep.
And the Celtics are often not playing on a 10 from the tip in March or any month on a given night, potentially. And they just go so fast. But like bring in Bruce Brown, they're just going to be really this is going to be like right at the top of the League Pass rankings list. Like these guys are so much fun to watch. Obi Toppin and Halliburton is just like, I can't wait for Knicks fans
Jackson.
to be able. Isaiah Jackson was really good last year. He gives me I saw a great thread on Isaiah Jackson the other day and Time Lord vibes. Like if you're a Pacers fan, you're like he has this this secret hidden power that a lot of other fans don't really know about. He gives me that kind of sense, and like you pair him come with Miles Turner coming off the bench, like all of a sudden they kind of have sneaky depth, a lot of pace, a lot of athleticism. Mathurin, liked him early, kind of fell off a little bit. Kind of feels like a little bit of a shot chucker, but that's kind of the rookie experience for someone like that. But I don't know. What do you think, Alex?
So with the Pacers, the only thing that has me hesitating, kind of having them take a big jump and being a playoff team is their bench. They're main guys. I have pretty much zero reservations about them working. I actually came across a really interesting number on cleaning the glass the other day, and I was trying to find it, and I just found it. Of all the lineups in the NBA that played at least 100 possessions, so not a super big sample size. It's a pretty low minimum. But when you hear the guys that are in this lineup, you'll be like, oh, those are guys that play significant minutes. But Tyrese Halliburton, Aaron Nesmith, Benedict Mathurin, Buddy Hield, and Miles Turner. When those 5 guys were on the floor together last year, they had an offensive rating of 162.5 and a defensive rating of 114.4, which is a net rating of 48.1. So
pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad. But all jokes aside, if you go and look at their numbers for some of their lineups that involve their main guys, obviously Nesmith he's not going to be a super main contributor. He's going to be off the bench, but a lot of the other guys that I named there, Tyrese Halliburton, obviously Mathurin, Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, and then they have a guy like Andrew Nembhard, who I am super high on. Mm-hmm. If you look at the lineup numbers for this team, they had times where, depending on if they had the right combination in, they were just slaughtering teams. And it's because they're so freaking good from beyond the arc. That whole team can shoot the heck out of the ball. And really, if they have a good bench and they're just an average or even slightly below average defense and the bench is fine, they could potentially take a pretty big leap. But if that's not the case, if their bench is still kind of something that ends up needing to be addressed, I think play-in range is probably about where they'll be. But I would say probably more on the upper end of the play-in range is where I would have them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, I think they've got a higher ceiling. I think you can be very confident they're going to be in the play-in range, but would you be shocked if they end up the 5th seed? No. I don't think so. Especially regular season, you play super fast, you're super young, bunch of hungry dudes, and you just fire threes. You get
Carlisle's a great coach.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then if they can just get a little better on defense, you got Miles Turner and Isaiah Jackson, if those are your 2 rim protectors, I do see a world. And Bruce Brown, yeah, dude, I think just bringing in someone like that to do a bit of everything. Yeah, I think they can have some good defensive lineups. Neesmith is still a little lost sometimes, but he's athletic enough where he can get some block shots. So it's like, Neesmith and Bruce Brown and Miles Turner, those at least you got 3 good defenders there. We're missing maybe 2 more, but maybe I just talked myself out of the idea of them having a good defense. But yeah, like I see it for them for sure.
Yeah, and again, loaded with young talent. Like, Mathurin was the 6th pick. Like, he could totally pop and be an efficient 20-point-per-game scorer, and that just completely changes the ceiling of the team. So, I love the Pacers. Yeah, you're right, Jake. Like, I will be catching a lot of Pacers games on the nights the Celtics are not playing. But before we move on to Tier 3, the middle class, we have a message from our sponsor.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston. And get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed.
Get ready for NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use and you can be on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And I will say, Sunday Ticket, YouTube TV works amazing. It works so well. I do it for NBA League Pass too because it works incredible through YouTube TV and doesn't have all the crazy like screen or the streams dropping and stuttering like it does on their website. So cannot recommend that enough. Awesome offer from FanDuel.
I got my weekly podcast.
Yes, give us
NFL bet, and this is an Alex Hoops themed bet.
So,
yeah. So 10 plus rushing touchdowns. Alexander Madison. I got a little inside tip from Alex Hoops before we hopped on. Plus 280 for 10 plus tutties. Top 9 offense last year. Their defense got worse. Alex, you tailing me on that one or no? This is not advice for anyone besides me.
Honestly, he had 5 last year.
Hey.
Yeah, why not? I'm
let's
it.
go.
Nice plus money on it too.
Yeah,
so I
exactly.
like it, Jake. I like it.
There we go.
Alrighty. Thank you, FanDuel. All right, Tier 3, the middle class. I'm just going to start us out with a hot take.
Yeah, dude.
Philadelphia 76ers. 3rd in offense last year, 8th in defense, 3rd in net rating. But what is this team without James Harden? Like, for his faults, he was extremely, extremely important to them. I mean, like, I could see this, like, folding like a deck of cards, and I absolutely hope it does. Alex, am I being a massive Boston homer right now?
No. So
yes!
I did a video on this recently, and just because I'm wearing the Boston sweater, right now, I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying this because I'm like have a bias towards Boston. Philly, the big tell here is obviously Harden is not going to be around for them, whether he's playing for a different team or he's just not showing up or he's on the bench in street clothes, like whatever the case may be. He's not playing. Joel Embiid will be Joel Embiid. I have no doubt about that. They even have some young guys who I think will be. I like Tyrese Maxey a lot. I think Tyrese Maxey is going to be very good. Jaden Springer, I think, is going to be a guy who will eventually be able to contribute for them. But really, outside of Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris is still, in my opinion, a fine player. He's just fine. He will do exactly what you expect him to do on a nightly basis. And he might have a night where he goes for 25, 30 points. Yeah. But other than like the guys that we know for that team, they don't have a ton going for them. And I talked about it in the video I did, kind of going through kind of the between the lines aspects of a potential James Harden trade. I think this team is gearing up for a 2024 offseason retool. Mm-hmm. So I think this season, if they can just keep Joel Embiid from requesting a trade and just tough it out through this season, I think they're going all in the 2024 offseason. And for that reason, I think they're kind of just like okay with whatever happens. I think there's probably an understanding that, like, yeah, without James Harden, unless they get something in return, which we've seen your return for a star player like James Harden at this point in his career, the return in that trade is not going to be enough to kind of move the needle for you. It might be better longer term assets, but short term, you're rarely getting anything that resembles equal value in terms of short term contributors. So I think they're going to just kind of take this season in stride and just see what happens. But 2024 off season is kind of where I think they have their eyes set on.
Yeah, look, I'm sure no one in the chat and no one listening is too upset that we're doing more Sixers Schadenfreude, because we have certainly done a lot in the past couple of weeks. We had Trill on last episode, or a couple episodes ago, and as I was the Sixers pain wizard, I've been enjoying the Sixers admin. Like, if you go to any Sixers post on Twitter right now that the admin actually posts, and you go below, it's legitimately hilarious. Like, it's now a bit for all Sixers fans. Just be like, hey, admin, hope you're okay. Hope they're paying for your therapy. Like, because everyone's just like depressively aggressive in the comments. But yeah, like, the fact that they're at a point where they're kind of feels like they're punting a season where Joel Embiid is smack bang in the middle of his prime, where he literally just won MVP, has been a top 3 MVP candidate for the last 3 years. And they're now in a spot where it's like, yeah, this season's not going to be it. They maxed out last season. Harden was brought in. He led the league in assists. He should have probably been All-NBA. Probably should have been an All-Star. If he's not fully bought in, that's a mess. And Joel Embiid doesn't really need, I think, too much encouragement to kind of like mail it in the middle of the season as well. So, yeah, this is chef's kiss. But this is aggressive, though. I will say, middle class.
Welcome to the middle class, Philly.
But yeah, would it shock you if they're like the 4th seed or 5th seed? Not really.
No.
Yeah.
But I have too much hate in my heart for that, Jake. All right, we've talked a lot about the Sixers recently, so we'll move on. And I think we can move past these guys because they are the most middle-class team to ever middle-class. The Atlanta Hawks, 7th in offense, 22nd in defense, 19th in net rating. Ooh. I think they'll be a little better. I think they're going to be a little better with Quinn Snyder. Trey, DeJounte, AJ Griffin, it's the Hawks. Like, it's the same old Hawks. No more John Collins, but he wasn't that great last year anyway. So, Alex, I don't know. You kind of had a reaction. Are you high on the Hawks or are you low?
I don't know if I'm willing to say that I'm high on the Hawks.
Do it.
But they have guys that I'm very, very, very high on.
Okay.
Trae Young is Trae Young. I think Quinn Snyder does a better job of getting the most out of Trae. Even defensively, like, there were times during their series against the Celtics where I was like,
he was better.
Yeah, it was like, did Trae Young just navigate a screen like really, really well? I was like, wow. Because in theory, a guy that small has some, and I say this very reluctantly, has some advantages in certain contexts defensively. Sure. And like things like screen navigation are one of those things where like you can get between the ball handler and the screener because you're just small enough to fit through that really tiny gap. And like if Trae Young gets to the point where he can just like stay in front of a dude coming off of a screen, like that's going to be really huge. I'm not betting a ton of money on that, but like it was just something that I noticed. The things that I'm actually bought in on with Atlanta are Onyeka Okongwu. I really think it's in Atlanta's best interest to trade Capella for just like, if they could get like a fine, okay backup big man in like whatever other crap you need to make the money work. Like they don't need Clint Capella anymore. Clint Capella is still a fine player. It's just you don't need him because Okongwu is simply a much better player by just about any way you look at it. And then AJ Griffin, I'm assuming he's going to get a lot of minutes this year. Mm-hmm. That dude, like, book it. He will be a top 5 shooter in the NBA.
Okay.
Sooner rather than later. Like, I don't know if it's going to happen this season, but like 5 years from now, if you look up and see AJ Griffin's attempting 10 threes a game and he's knocking down 4.5 a night, like, don't say I didn't tell you. That dude is a flamethrower, and he honestly brings a lot more to the table than that. One of the nice things with him is like he can put the ball on the floor. He's a good kind of second side creator where like, yeah, he gets a ball reversal and he gets someone to bite on a closeout and he is able to get to the rim or, create for another guy or pull up for a mid-range shot. Like he does a lot of stuff well outside of just like spot up shooting. So that's where I'm really excited. Like how much are they able to extract out of him? Cause he really is a perfect pairing alongside Trey. Obviously we don't know how DeJounte Murray's going to end up kind of playing out. Like he could even be a guy that like, if the trade deadline rolls around and they're below 500, maybe they're like, can we just get like a decent role player to like just fit better? Like they're kind of in a position where you might need to start just saying, we have Trey, we have good young players. And like at this point, let's just see what we can do with these young guys and kind of ship off some of the panic moves we made. Cause that's what DeJounte was. He was a panic move.
Yes.
3 first-round picks for DeJounte is a disaster of a trade.
Yeah. I think Atlanta will be a playoff team. I'm not going to say that they're going to be a top 4 seed, but like 6 seed, 5 seed, that's where they're at for me. Maybe 4 seed, depending on how tight the East is, but like they're going to be better. It's just how much better and, what kind of developmental leaps do a lot of their young guys take?
Yeah, look, as much as and the chat here and Celtics fans, I think, feel relatively strongly about the Hawks. We've kind of been kicking the shit out of them since Trae Young's kind of come into the league. It's just a bad matchup for Trae. Like having guys like Derek White and Marcus Smart out there on both ends can kind of like make life quite difficult for him. That being said, Trae came in the Garden Game 5 and took a dump on Lucky, right? Like right on it. Logo 3. Ice Trae. So like he's like a walking top 10, top 5 offense every year, pretty much as he's come in the league. So like if they can just make a little, like they don't need to be much better on defense to be like very solid. So, and I do think Quinn Snyder has the capability to get them there. But yeah, we don't need to spend too much time on the Hawks. I'm conscious that
I'm sorry. I probably extended
No.
way longer than it needed to be.
No. Look, we can probably cut this pod into 2 for audio purposes anyway. I was thinking, but look, everyone, look, it's off season. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. Like we'll just go, and people are here, so we'll keep going.
This is why we would never have a detailed discussion about the Atlanta Hawks' like potential next year. So that's why we wanted to have you on, Alex, man, for the intense defense of the Atlanta Hawks. So I love it, dude. Yeah, you do not need to apologize at all. So just to be clear, like I said, these aren't ranked in there. I do think the Hawks are going to be right in that like 7 to 5 seed range. I think they're good. I just think their ceiling is not super high. But speaking of low ceilings, middle class, I almost moved these guys down to tier 4. The Toronto Raptors, 13th in offense, 11th in defense, 12th in net rating. I just like Scotty Barnes, OG, Siakam, Pirtle. It's just I actually think Grady Dick's a really nice fit for them on the wing too. Like they needed a knockdown shooter like that. So Schroeder's an NBA player. Gary Trent's not bad. I just like maybe they won't play like that insane Nick Nurse style trapping defense, and their defense they'll just kind of be a little more conservative and switch everything, which they've been calling out to do. Like they should be doing that with their personnel always, and they just haven't. So I could see their defense being legitimately in that like 6th, 7th best in the league range, and that's just gonna win you games. I don't know, Jake, you disagree?
I'm
lower.
I'm low on the Raptors. Yeah. I was high on them last season. I kind of had bought into the Vision 6-9 thing that they had going on, which just doesn't work. And I think we're learning that as Celtics fans too, is you need playmaking. You need at least some playmaking. And Schroeder, we played that game in Boston too.
Yep.
And look, in specific contexts, Schroeder can be great. He just murdered the Boomers, dropping 30 on us. Like he's a good basketball player. But like if he's your point guard, and then where is your playmaking? It's going to be a tough watch for me, I think, from like a night-to-night basis. Schroeder, Barnes, Siakam, OG, like who is a plus playmaker on this roster? I don't think they have one. Maybe like Siakam for his position. For his position, yes. But like if he's your best playmaker, then I think you're in trouble. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the Raptors. I'd move them down. I think I would have them closer
That's
to playing.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough with the Raptors because, like, on paper, the amount of talent that they have, like, they've got good players. Like, even outside of their main guys that you guys mentioned, like, Thaddeus Young has consistently been, like, a good NBA player. Otto Porter Jr.
Yep.
won a championship with the Warriors. Like, he was an integral part of that whole thing.
Unfortunately, very integral, especially in the finals. Yeah.
Well aware.
And then, like, Precious Achua. Hopefully I said that. I don't know if I said that right.
That was good.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Sweet. Like, he could be good eventually. I think he had a much, much better season last year and was actually pretty decent relative to earlier on in his career. But, like, this feels like a situation. The whole Pascal Siakam being traded thing, I don't see that happening because a lot of stuff has come out and they've been like, Siakam considers Toronto his home. Like, his whole family lives there. And I think if he did get traded anywhere, he's a free agent this offseason and he will immediately sign right back with the Raptors. So if things stay how they are, I'm pretty low on this team. I think there are guys who will improve. Like, Scotty Barnes is not going to have the season he had last year. Last year was definitely growing pains. And I still very much like Scotty Barnes, but I think the Raptors learned a lot about what his limit is. I think they were trying to put like a square peg through a round hole where, like, they were forcing him into this point forward thing that, like, oh, maybe he can be like a really, really big point guard. And it's like, let's dial it back a little bit. Not every big wing that can, like, occasionally handle the ball in transition can be a point forward. Like, not everybody's going to be Giannis. And I think they might've gotten caught up a little bit in that. And now they're kind of seeing that backfire. So yeah, I think honestly, if they were in tier 4, I wouldn't disagree with it.
Yeah, I regret putting them in tier 3. I probably
How
should've
dare
dropped
you,
them in
dude?
there. I know. I'm a fool.
You're a Toronto termite. That's what you are.
Actually, I've been a Toronto sucks truther for
I know.
years when everybody else was high on them. So the irony. Okay, that was last of the tier 3, the middle class. Now we're getting into tier 2, which is the good playoff teams. I think, these guys disappointed in the playoffs pretty clearly last year, but they're still young. They're getting better. And I think that of any team that addressed their weaknesses in the offseason, the Cleveland Cavaliers might have done it the best, at least from a role player perspective. They were 8th in offense last year, 1st in defense, 2nd in net rating. I mean, adding Strus, I love Max Strus. Like, he's a really, really solid wing, and he's going to open the floor up. They were desperate for shooting on the wing. So, I don't know, Jake. Good playoff team. Feels like I wouldn't be shocked to see the Cavs in the second round, but do you see them higher?
So they're a lock to me as a top 3 seed. I think regular season, when you have they've been so consistent to on defense the last 2 seasons since Mobley's come in, him and Allen back there, similar to the Celtics defensively, having those twin towers, so effective on defense. And then regular season, Mitchell, Garland, you add actual shooting with Strus and Niang. I would be shocked if they're not a top 3 seed. I think from there, no worries. But then I still have big concerns from a playoff point of view when your 2 of your best 5 players don't shoot and are basically non-threats on offense. I know Mobley's a solid passer, connector, a little bit of the jump hook, but not you can't throw the ball to him really at any point on the court and feel confident and comfortable with him going to get you a bucket, especially in a playoff setting. So when you've got 2 guys like that in a playoff setting, you're going against basically if you get to the second round, it means you're playing probably either the Celtics or the Bucks. And if you give the Celtics or the Bucks a matchup where you're able to roam with Giannis, Rob Williams, Porzingis, you're fucked. And so second round to me is their ceiling until Mobley takes an offensive leap.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And I say that as someone who's I've been pretty high on the Cavs even before last year where they kind of took that jump. I was anticipating them to get a lot better when they drafted Mobley, obviously. But somebody told me, I forget where I saw this, but Mobley has never averaged 20 points per game at any level in his entire career.
Yeah.
And so the expectation that he's going to somehow just turn into some 20-point per game
KG.
scorer.
I've heard KG thrown
Tim
around all the
Duncan.
time.
It's okay, he might be able to get you, 18 or 19 within the flow of the offense, but in terms of defenses, like treating him as a first, second, or even third option, it's really tough to see that. That being said, they were top 10 in offense and top 10 in defense last year. That's good enough to be a top 3 seed in the East. Yeah. They're a good team. It's just how much are they going to be able to do to address the fact that Mobley is mostly a non-factor on the offensive end, and like what's their ceiling operating in that kind of context? Like, does that elevate you past a perennial second round exit, or can that get you to the Eastern Conference Finals? Can that get you to the finals? That's where I'm like, with the way the East is currently constructed, I don't think so.
And they have to have those 2 small guards out there. They're both too good, but also that kind of gives you a lot of problems on the other end, when you're going against teams with bigger guards. Like Jaylen Brown can eat either of those guys up when he's on offense. So just kind of a weird team, even though I do really like their offseason moves. Jake, were you going to say something?
Yeah, they also did. I was going to say, like, they gave the Celtics trouble. I know Ben's in here just freaking out, being like, we can't see the Cavs in the playoffs. And I was kind of there. Like, I was actually, give me the Sixers over the Cavs, just because we kind of struggled in drop coverage last season, and Trae Young did that, and I think Mitchell and Garland would have given us trouble. But that playoff setting, when you're game planning night to night, I do think that the matchups start to favor the Celtics quite a bit there.
Yeah. I mean, the tier 2 good playoff teams, like no team fits within a tier better than the Cavs. Like that's exactly what they are. They're just a nice, good quality playoff team. Okay, next up, the New York Knicks, 4th in offense for a Tibbs team, which is like insane, totally unheard of. 19th in defense, also unheard of for the opposite direction. 7th in net rating. Really solid. I think they proved some people wrong in that first round by wiping away the Cavs in 5. Just a really good, solid team. But I think like the Cavs, I do not trust Julius Randle in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I just can't get there. But Alex, tier 2 good playoff team, New York Knicks.
Yeah, that feels right. They got to honestly, I was pretty impressed by Jalen Brunson in that playoff series against the Heat. Like the Heat, obviously, we all know they ended up in the finals. Like,
no, I don't believe that happened in this universe. Yeah.
Hey, I would say if you simulated that series 1,000 more times, I don't see the Miami Heat winning that series more than once. Like, you're telling me the math of that series defies all logic. It's the most disgusting thing I've seen from an analytical perspective in so long. Like, it's up there with Steph Curry making 1,000 threes in a row. Like, it doesn't, or whatever, not 100 threes in a row or whatever it was. Like, it defies all logic.
Yep.
So the fact that the Knicks, back to my point, the fact that the Knicks managed to take a team that was literally having the most historic spot up shooting run in NBA history, like, props to them for that. But yeah, I gotta see them do it against I'm not gonna say a real team, because the Heat are still a very good team, but like I want to see them do it against Boston or a Milwaukee or even a Philly. But I think a lot of teams can probably do it to Philly, because I think that's just a mentally weak team that you can, if you just pound on them long enough, they're gonna break. But that's besides the point. But yeah, the Knicks, I like the Knicks. I like what the Knicks are building. I like a lot of the players that they have. I think the moves that they've made have been a little more calculated than they kind of get credit for. Like bringing in Jalen Brunson, that deal looks incredible now.
So
Dylan Brooks is getting $20 million a year. And you're telling me you've got Jalen Brunson for what, like $26 million, 27, something like that. It's like, that's a great deal. Josh Hart, bringing in Josh Hart. Josh Hart's like one of the best role players in the entire league. And they've got Emmanuel Quickley, who is a 6 Man of the Year candidate. Like, they're doing everything right. And they're that tier 2 to me this year. They're probably going to be a tier 2 next year, but who knows? 3 years from now, 4 years from now, if they keep playing their cards right and parlaying the contracts that they have now into good long-term moves, they could end up being a tier 1 kind of team eventually. It's just this season, probably next season, I don't see it.
Yeah, I think as currently constructed, there's not a piece on the roster where you're like, if this happens, then they could go to tier 1. Like, I think the ship has sailed on the RJ Barrett thing. I think he was the one guy where it's like, if they're going to go up a legit level, a legit tier, it's going to have to come from RJ. And I think we've given him enough chances now. Like, what is he, 20? He's played 5 seasons now. I think him going into like an all-star level is probably off the table at this point. Not unheard of, but he's been given plenty of opportunity, I think, to do that. Yeah, the offense doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but like just because like they're not a super good 3-point shooting team, not super high field goal percentage, but they don't turn the ball over and they get to the free throw line.
Offensive rebounds too. They're monsters on the offensive glass. Yeah. But before we move on, real quick, WVU homerism. Watch out for Deuce McBride. Yeah. Deuce, baby. He's going to be good. I'm telling you. He showed some flashes last year. All right. Last team in the good playoff teams. Wait till you see where I have the Heat, Alex.
Yeah, you notice they haven't come up yet.
Yeah, I noticed. Last team in Tier 2, and this is a hot take. The Milwaukee Bucks. Oldest roster in the NBA. 15th in offense last year. 4th in defense. I could see that getting worse. Brook Lopez is approaching 40 years old. 5th in net rating. Middleton's not the same type of defender anymore. Drew Holiday's getting into his mid-30s. Like, this team feels like a ticking time bomb to me, but it's Giannis, so they're at least going to be a good playoff team. But Alex, tell me, am I being a massive homer putting them in Tier 2?
No, and it kills me, like, because you guys know I'm like a part-time Bucks fan.
Yep.
They're kind of my Eastern Conference team. For those listening, Chris Middleton is my favorite player in the NBA. I'm a gigantic Middleton fan. And I will say, like, of the players who showed up to play during the playoffs, Chris Middleton showed up to freaking play. Like, for everyone who was, crapping their pants during that series, he was like, I'll do what I do. And that was fun to see. But yeah, Drew Holiday, it's wild because he had his best regular season since like his All-Star year, which I get wasn't that long ago, but like,
dude, there were so many games where Celtics fans are like pushing for the 1 seed, and it's like the Bucks are down, have no business being in any game, and Drew Holiday goes like 4 for 4 from 3 in the fourth quarter, and the game's over. And then he gets to the playoffs, and he couldn't literally, for 2 years in a row now, actually hasn't been able to hit a shot. But the regular season wise, he dragged them to the 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, he's the fact that he drops off so much is wild in and of itself. But the aging roster, the fact that there's not a ton of like upside going forward for them in terms of their young guys, it's hard to see a world where they
not a Beauchamp guy.
I like him a lot, but like if that's your only guy that you're high on, like heading into the future, I'm not gonna buy a ton of stock in you, and that's even assuming Giannis. I have a feeling he's going to come back and have the best season of his career this year. For a guy like him, like it's really hard to imagine that he takes a punch in the face like he did during the playoffs last year and doesn't come back and have the best season of his career. But like, that's not going to matter a whole lot when Brook Lopez is 40 years old and Drew Holiday like doesn't show up in the playoffs, and Middleton is, who knows, like I hope he has a healthy season, but the injuries are kind of becoming more and more frequent. It's like, how many games are you going to get out of him, even if he is still contributing at a pretty decent level? It's like, yeah, you need 82 game players, and the Bucks don't have a lot of 82 game players.
Yeah, and I think Middleton's going to be able to be a tough shot maker until he dies. Like he doesn't need separation to get his shot off and knock down shots. It's the other end of the court where I think you're concerned if you're a Bucks fan. He's had now 2 knee surgeries in the past like 12 months, wasn't able to get healthy all season, then has the second one this offseason. And if they just don't have true wing defenders like Drew Holiday, as good as he is, as like, he's one of the best guard defenders in the league. Caruso, Smart, Drew Holiday, Derek White, they're all in that tier 1. But we saw it with we saw it with Jimmy Butler, and we saw the year previous where the Celtics played the Bucks. Like, there's just limitations to what he's going to be able to do with Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum. That's just the reality of it. But that being said, I think not having them in tier 1, Spoonie, is definitely tempting the gods just a little bit.
I know.
Because Giannis Antetokounmpo is still... He's like, exactly. We've all anointed Jokic as the best player in the world. I think that's totally fair. But I think Giannis certainly has a claim, and he'll be back next year. But they have 4 guys to me that you can like feel pretty comfortable with in the playoffs, and it's Grayson Allen. And like Javon Carter was huge for them all season as well. Like
never missed a transition 3 in his life.
Nope.
Again,
Money.
Another guy that just like would not let the Bucks get rid of that 1 seed all season long. And Malik Beasley, I would say is he going to shoot better than Javon Carter?
He's Grayson Allen. He's like the same player as Grayson Allen,
but
basically.
Worse on defense. Like he's even worse on defense than Grayson Allen. So it's just like they don't have a 5th guy to me, and that's a pretty serious problem. But I can't take them out of tier 1 just because of Giannis. Like I just can't.
All right, that's fair. Yeah. That's totally fair. Giannis makes a lot of problems go away. That is for sure. Okay, the last tier, you can probably guess one team that's in this tier. This is the true contenders. We only have 2 teams left, and this makes absolutely no sense. It's completely stupid. I completely understand that. They were 25th in offense last year, 9th in defense, and 21st in net rating, and they made the fucking finals. Until they prove they're done, I mean, I'm done doubting the Miami Heat. Like, I'm just not doing it again. They're true. I don't care if they're the 9 seed. I don't care if they're the 5 seed. Like, you just have to respect that they have a chance to make the finals. I know it's dumb, Alex. I know you said the math was it crazy, but like they just keep getting away with it.
Dude,
like
this is what happens when you're in like you're held hostage. We have Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
at this point, Tyler Hero going off for the best game of Tyler Hero's career happened as a rookie in the bubble, and he has never reached that level again. And Marcus Smart, hand in his face, 32 footers. It didn't matter. It just never matters. 3 out of the last 4 years, the Heat have been in the conference finals against the Celtics. So until proven otherwise, like you can list off the roster, and like this is how much of a sicko I am at this point. I'm like, yeah, Josh Richardson's been bad for 2 years, but on the Heat, he'll be good. Tyler Hero, Jimmy, Caleb Martin, and Bam. If that's their 5, that's not so bad. Hayward Highsmith,
he's good.
Heat fans think he's good. I'm 100% sure Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going to be ready right away. Like, yes, they're going to have a little bit of depth issues, but Duncan Robinson, like, is he bad? Because he's not bad when he plays the Celtics in the playoffs. He was running like side pick and rolls and throwing lobs to Bam. Like, I don't know anymore.
Yeah, talk us off the ledge, Alex.
Yeah.
Talk us off the ledge.
It's funny you said that about the Duncan Robinson thing, because there's an interview, and I forget where the interview is from. It might have been after one of the playoff games, but they asked him about Duncan Robinson. They were like, what's kind of been like the process of Duncan Robinson getting like DNPs during last year's playoffs to this year? He's like an integral part of the team. And Eric Spoelstra was like, well, we like literally just got him and Bam together in practice, and we got them to the point where Duncan Robinson could pass out of traps. And then from there, we got it to where he could come off of a handoff and put the ball on the floor and run a pick and roll with him. And then we just built the 2-man game off of that. And like the threat of his shooting, we just built everything around that from there. And I was like, this all makes sense now. This is why it's like all of a sudden just the most lethal thing on the planet. Like there was the Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic 2-man game, and then for some reason there was the Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo 2-man game. And it was the most infuriating thing in the world to see like the Celtics, who are a very good defensive team, just like fall victim to Eric Spoelstra just being a demon of a coach and knowing exactly what to do to get the most out of his team. And like, honestly, I was going to disagree and be like, nah, I don't think they're going to be a tier 1 team. But then I pulled up their roster and I was
it's
like,
not bad,
gosh,
dude.
dang it, they still have good players. Like,
Yeah.
a bad team.
No.
Like, how do they keep getting away with this?
Yeah,
and especially if they get Dame. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah.
I'm not ready to
The only
confront
concern
that.
I have is age and like people getting hurt.
Yeah, honestly, for the regular season, they might actually win more games with this current roster than what the roster looks like after a Dame trade. Because like if Portland does make this trade, then like they're not going to have the like Jovic, Hame. I'm praying to God Caleb Martin goes out the door as well. Like you'd have to assume like that he goes out like. Alex, he shot over 60% for a whole series against the Celtics. It's on like midi turnaround. He was the monster for Jaylen Brown. Like he literally stole Jaylen Brown's talent for that whole series. But yeah, like until otherwise, and also Z Gamer, I was thinking as well while Alex was talking, we're going to get Sam Hauser on this program as well because I think Hauser has some of like the same like feel and IQ when you watch him play. Like I don't think it's out of his realm of possibility to. And that's the thing. It's using that gravity. Like everybody freaks out every time Duncan Robinson has the ball, like coming off that handoff. That like the pass to Bam is easy. Like it's just anyway. This is what PTSD feels like. I'm guessing.
I can only imagine. I mean, I was watching that series, and it's not like I was probably more in my heart of hearts rooting for Boston in that series, but like
it would have been a better finals, no question.
I was like, this just doesn't make sense. Like it was interesting, but it was also like maddening to just watch that and be like, what on earth? Like this doesn't make sense. This defies all conventional thinking. So
indeed. And so until Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra are not both on the Heat, I have them in my tier 1 title contenders from now until both of them are gone. Okay, so I think the last team...
we can do Boston quickly, right? And then just, like, because Alex agrees, tier 1, lock, championship contender, obviously. I mean, quick Porzingis, like, thing, maybe?
So I did a video on that when they first traded for him. I think the fit is actually fantastic, assuming the question mark to me. So Washington and a buddy of mine, Joe Hulbert, who does stuff for a website called Swish Theory.
I think you say Joe House. I was like, yeah, you've got the same Bill Simmons, Washington Wizards guy. Yeah.
But my buddy Joe did an entire piece that just broke down why the Washington Wizards actually have like one of the league's best offenses from like an X's and O's perspective. And the big thing with Porzingis is if you use him the right way, he is a very, 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 very good player. And that's like the question mark with Porzingis is like, does Boston use him the right way? Which I don't think it's unlikely that they're going to, because the things that Washington did to get the most out of Porzingis, Boston has been doing those same kinds of things with Tatum and Brown through the use of like Al Horford and Grant Williams over the past couple of years. A lot of the same actions that Washington runs, Boston does it as well. So I actually am pretty high on Porzingis coming in and being that like third star. And obviously he's a good defender. Like he's a big dude. He's 7 feet 2 inches tall. He's whatever he is. He's going to be able to block shots and protect the rim.
Yeah, I think any fit concerns that I see don't make a ton of sense to me because of how successful Rob and Horford have been playing together. And Porzingis is kind of just like a mix of both of them. Obviously more versatility on offense, but when you just talk about he's a rim runner like Rob on offense, and then he can space the floor like Al on offense, and then obviously you add in the ability to catch, to post up and attack off closeouts and do stuff like that. Like, I think the ceiling is no question higher with Porzingis. I think injury-wise, maybe that's where like the concern is, obviously with the plantar fasciitis thing already. But good to hear, Alex.
I think losing Smart, Boston fans, I come in peace saying this. Marcus Smart's a very, very good player, but Derek White stepping into the starting role.
Yep.
I think like I'm all in on the Derek White All-Star campaign. Like this dude, I would not be surprised if he has like a Drew Holiday type All-Star season where he's like maybe around close to like 20 points per game, like with really, really good defense, like elite defense. He was arguably, in my opinion, you make the argument he was the best guard defender in the NBA last year. and I wouldn't be mad at you for that. He's just very, 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 very good now. And like, how much does his output and production scale with more usage, which he's undoubtedly going to get this year? And I think it'll scale very, very well. And in the context of this team, like, it's hard to imagine they're not the best team in the East. Like, I'd be shocked if they're anything lower than the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Self-plug
here.
That felt good. Yeah,
that felt really good. Self-plug here. I just wrote about how part of the Marcus Smart trade was the fact that Derek White is so damn good that they want to clear the way for him. And Smart missed 3 weeks. Derek White started, played a huge role, 25 rebounds, 6 assists a game on basically 50, 40, 90. So, yeah, I'm really confident in D. White being able to step in. And, like, culturally, they just needed a change, man. They really just did. Unfortunately, I love Marcus, always will, but I think it was time.
Yep. I think Ezekiel makes a good point. It's like we were just never going to see the Derek White empowerment situation if Marcus Smart's still here. Like, the fact that Derek White was only playing 28 minutes a game last year just like is not...
It's insane.
It is like, for someone that was so good last season, it's crazy that he's not playing 35 minutes a night. So we're going to see it.
Yes, sir.
All right. This is now we're really going to test you here, Alex.
Oh, boy.
Now we're really going to test you here. I feel like you've, endeared yourself to the first of the floor fans pretty well, I'd say, today. But Spoony, do you want to take the reins? I kind of jumped in there, but
no, go ahead, man.
all right,
yeah, go
Sorry,
for it.
I just all of a sudden I started hosting.
Okay. Yeah, it's all you, man.
Jason Tatum kind of more or less is going to decide whether or not the Celtics win a title. Awesome, Porzingis comes in, make some changes here or there, but him, like, if he plays at like the level he's capable of in the Warriors series, they probably win the title. Ironically, I thought he was the best player in the Heat series. The problem was Jalen didn't come along for the ride. Obviously, he hurt his ankle in Game 7, but he was like putting Jimmy Butler in a locker by the time Game 6 of that series was here. But where do you have Tatum ranked going into next season? Yeah.
In regards to what you said about him hurting his ankle in that Game 7, I can say this now because the game is over and I have nothing at stake. I am 100% confident Jason Tatum does not hurt his ankle in the beginning of that game. They win that game. Yeah. I am like painfully. I was going into that game. I was telling all my friends, I'm like, they're gonna do it. Like, it's gonna happen. And then Jason Tatum hurt his ankle, and I was like, that's it. It's not happening. And hindsight's 2020. I can say that now because I have nothing at stake here. But sure. He was. I mean, I think the Warriors finals thing where he just completely looked like a different player. People talk about the wrist stuff and like they're like it wasn't a real thing, and like, you know, he didn't end up getting surgery, and I'm like, regardless of that, either way, whether you think it was real, whether you think it was fake, he just was not doing what you expect of Jason Tatum. Like, he just looked like a different player. I think whether or not his wrist was hurt, I think he would have still looked like a different player. It just was not. He was not there. Something was not right.
To me, it was mental exhaustion. It was like the Game 7 against Milwaukee, the Game 7 series against the Heat, and then to go into another insanely difficult defensive situation like with Draymond. I think he wasn't ready for it. That's okay.
Yeah. That's got to be just brutal to have to go through that, like, constantly. Like, not only is it a physical roller coaster, like there's an emotional roller coaster there too. Like, you're not literally fighting for your life, but you're fighting for your life every single game out there. And I think this year, like, I'm a big believer in you have to go through the fire before you become like that guy, before you got to take your punches before you can, be the champ. And at this point, it's kind of like, how many more bruises does Jason Tatum need to take before it happens? And like, the thing is, he has become that guy. Like, you look at his numbers over the past 2-3 seasons, and it's like, yeah, he's an incredible player. He's one of the 10 best players in the NBA right now. Like, no question. And like this year, the thing that stood out to me throughout like the entire regular season was the fact that he looked much more comfortable getting to the rim and finishing. The mid-range stuff with Tatum is kind of becoming like a theoretical thing. And like, I'm not going to hold my breath anymore, but I've kind of went on a rant about it on Twitter today about how 3-level scoring is kind of overrated anyways. I don't think Jason Tatum needs to be a good mid-range shooter to be like a top 5, top 3 player in the NBA. Like, it's just not necessary. If he gets there, fine, great. That's awesome. If he doesn't, I don't care that much. He can still, based on what he's shown us and what he's shown us that he's capable of doing and the versatility that he has from top to bottom, it's like he can still be a top 3 player in the NBA.
I think that third level is less the mid-range and more the post-up. I think, like, what's the other option if the three ball's not happening, if he's having issues at the rim? He was really good in the post last year, like annoyingly good, considering how little they put him down there. Mm-hmm. And then the floater, it was better last year. It was still not good, but he's really only started doing it last year. Was really the first time that was part of his bag. But we're gonna have to nail this down, Alex. I think it's fair that tier 1 is Jokic, Steph, and Giannis. In my opinion, that's like an unassailable tier 1. Maybe, to me, that's tier 1. And then tier 2 is just a big tier now, where it's like Tatum, Luka, KD. I would say Luka and Tatum at 4 and 5 is like safe for me. I think KD, your time is over, old man. Embiid, I think now you're in prove it mode in the playoffs, otherwise it doesn't matter. And then it's like Booker, Jimmy, LeBron, Embiid, AD tier. But they're all kind of in like the same tier to me. And that's like 11 total guys. But yeah, like, do you agree that in with that kind of premise?
I think he's top end of the second tier easily. Yeah. Like, that's not, I think the question now is like, obviously Steph, Giannis, Jokic, that's a tough group to hang with just because of everything that we've seen. But like, that is not unattainable. Maybe not this year, but a couple years from now. Like, I have pretty full confidence Tatum's going to end up being a tier 1 player at some point in his career. And, this year, if there was like a tier 1A and tier 1B, like Tatum's easily tier 1B. Like, I would have him top 5 player in the NBA right now, like comfortably, like not a question. Yeah.
This is the question that all Celtics fans want you to answer right here. Tatum and Luka, because I think that's, of the next two guys, to me, those are the 2 most obvious guys to like become surefire tier 1 guys year in, year out.
I probably would not have Kevin Durant top 5. That's my hot take. So I think like Luka would probably be 4 just because like two-way wise, like Jason Tatum's better, but like Luka's just he doesn't make sense. Like, he's ridiculously an incredible player. Like, the stuff that he does is unreal. But I would have Tatum over Kevin Durant because I think Tatum just does more for you right now. Like, Kevin Durant's kind of turning into, honestly, I say turning into, but like he doesn't get to the rim. He's got to share like he can't be the number 1 guy anymore. And that's not saying that he's like not good enough to, but like he's shown that he is not willing to. So if you're not willing to, I'm going to operate under the assumption that guys who are willing to and guys that are doing that thing as the number 1 guy and like confidently like driving the bus, as much as that whole discourse was a little bit ridiculous to me. Like, yeah, I'd have Tatum over Kevin Durant right now just because you're getting more defense. He is able to he's not, I don't want to say able to have the ball in his hands more, but like he is doing more with the ball in his hands than Kevin Durant is. Like, Kevin Durant's basically like someone else is going to bring the ball up the floor. Like, Kevin Durant will operate within the flow of your offense, and he will do it very, 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 very well. But Jason Tatum's going to run your offense. He's going to be like the fulcrum on which you build your, seesaw or whatever.
Yeah, and I think 2 years in a row now, I think like KD's been kind of underwhelming in the playoffs. So I think, and it's not. He had an Achilles injury after 30 years old, and like he's probably the the athlete that's recovered the best in history from that injury. He's still been so awesome, but the fact is he's 34 years old. He had sprained his knee 2 years in a row as well now. Like, he's just not quite at that level, I think, now. But yeah, I mean, Spoonie, where are you on the Luka Tatum thing? Because I do think it's totally fair to have Luka ahead of Tatum, but I do think that they're right there, just because of what Tatum brings you on the other end.
I think they're closer than probably the non-Celtics fans think. But because, like, look, man, like, I know people are like, Luka's better defensively in the playoffs. Yeah, so he's like below average instead of like not trying. Tatum is legitimately one of the best wing defenders in the NBA. Like, there's a lot of value there. So I would, it's almost impossible. It's more about like what your team needs. I think, like, but I'm a homer. Give me Tatum, whatever. He's done it. So he's gotten this team to the Eastern Conference Finals how many times? Like, at some point, like, the results just kind of have to speak for themselves. Look, if Luka goes out and wins a title next year, he's probably the best player in the NBA at that point. So I think it's just more about results, as opposed to skill set for me, because there's just really different players too. So it's kind of hard to evaluate. Luka's essentially a point guard. He's just really big. So, and Tatum's not. He's more of an off-ball guy. So I flip a coin, but give me Tatum. I'm a homer.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And I'm never going to argue with that.
I do think it's fair to wonder about Luka's play style. I think we've got it in the chat here, and if he's capable or willing. I'm not sure, because like with Slovenia, it's the Luka show, Helio, as it should be, specifically with Slovenia. But this is an interesting year for the Tatum-Luka discourse, just because Porzingis is coming to the Celtics now, and it flamed out famously where they had to trade Porzingis for pennies on the dollar. And you see Brunson leave and have a career year, obviously slightly different role, but is Luka elevating players around him? Because like on its face, you're like, yeah, playing with Luka's great, but really, it's like playing with Harden right now. When you're playing offense with Luka. Whereas I do think Luka's that good on offense where he has a Jokic, like he has the mind, he has the IQ, he has the feel to play not the same exact way, obviously, because Jokic is 7 feet. But I don't see why Luka wouldn't be able to create far more of a team-centric offense, as opposed to what he's doing right now. And if he's able to unlock that piece, that would be where I think he goes to a new level. Whereas Tatum, I think it's like, you come and play with Tatum, you come get paid, whether it's Gordon Hayward or Al Horford going to get paid in Philly and coming back, like Derek White having his best season as a pro. I think it's proven that guys can play at a really high level with Tatum. So I lean Tatum, but I think it's super close. And I think those are the two guys, though. Like, can one of those two guys like comfortably enter tier 1 this year? Yeah. There is going to be one more leap, I think, for Tatum. I just don't know if it's going to be this year, because he's 25, but he'll be better again this year, I think. But is that now? Oh wow, we've got prime Tatum. Is that going to happen this year, next year, the year after? It's hard to say. The fact that he's only 25 still is pretty crazy, but we'll see. I appreciate that, Rob Montana, calling me smart in the chat. This is what I just spend most of my life thinking about every day. So, yeah.
All right, Alex, we have taken up a lot of your time, dude. I just want to say, like, we really appreciate it. This was awesome. We will definitely be back in touch, whether you like it or not. So thank you so much. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
AlexHoops on YouTube, AlexHoops on Twitter, with an underscore at the end. But tweeting a lot, posting on YouTube a lot. Check it out. Thank you guys for having me on. This was awesome. I always love it. So
I appreciate it. And like, if everyone listening, like Alex's YouTube, like you want to learn about basketball, great place to go.
I appreciate that, man. That's what I strive to do. Anytime someone's like, oh, I learned something that I didn't know before from this video, I'm like, sweet. That's like the coolest thing to me. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's not exactly what we're going for. We're but that's okay. I love it, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So that's going to do it for this one, Jake. In the words of Ben, love your work, mate. I'll see you guys later.